I think it was just 6 months ago. I had never used or heard of this thing called Zoom, and now it seems like I do everything on Zoom. You guys probably feel the same, but I am hopeful that sometime in the near future we'll be able to get together and run some in smaller groups. It sounds like there's some good movement there for out sports coming from the from Washington State. At least. Just got an email from one of the race timers about that there's some good guidelines that have been put out, and so yeah, we're hopeful to be able to follow some of that for training through the winter, and then anyways, yeah. But I like this too. I think I keep telling all of our folks that I think every training group in the future will have some sort of virtual component. um, I'm a little embarrassed that they're actually recording all of these and putting it somewhere online, but I guess I'll have to deal with that. Maybe I'll have to get more professional as time goes on. Well, let's get started. So the topic for today, really, and I kind of covered this a few weeks ago because this is something that we usually cover pretty early on in these groups, is breathing. If you guys all got the email today and went through some of the article that was there, is a really well written article. Kind of covers the same information I usually cover, and I think for every individual, breathing becomes something that's a different rhythm for you. I think one of the analogies they use in that article is it's a little like dancing. So you can have, a waltz or a cha-cha, or, any kind of any number of kinds of dances that have a little bit different rhythm, but it's finding that rhythm that works for you, ultimately, and then learning how that rhythm kind of matches your overall pace. And you've probably found through this already that your pace is kind of picking up a little bit. Maybe not a ton, but your pace is picking up a little bit. You're breathing a little easier at those slower paces than maybe what you used to. And so in the end, you'll find that you'll have to have these different paces in running, kind of a faster pace, which maybe we'll work on again this weekend, and a long, slow distance pace. And you'll find you breathe differently during those times too, right? Um, but really, the biggest thing, and I think one of the hard things for people to realize, is when we breathe throughout the day, we're generally breathing very shallow or fairly shallowly, right? We're using our rib cage to expand our chest. That's how we're pulling in the oxygen into our lungs. And if you do that while running, you'll really end up with some side stitches. Has anybody on the call ever had a side stitch before? Yeah, that's really just a cramp of these really long interstitial muscles that are in between your rib cage. That's why it feels like a side stitch. You might think something's going wrong inside, but it's a cramp inside of those muscles that are kind of overworking to help you breathe. And so the first and probably the biggest part to learning how to breathe well while running, or really while playing the saxophone or a trumpet or something like that, is to breathe from the diaphragm, right? And so that's lower, and it's kind of belly breathing. It's not something that I'm proud about when I have to stick out my belly to breathe in, but it's really learning to breathe using the diaphragm instead of the rib cage. And so if y'all want to put a hand on your belly right now, and I want you to take a big deep breath slowly, and I want you to pull in while extending out your belly, essentially. So pull in using that diaphragm, and this is something you have to train. So go ahead as you breathe in, extend out that belly and pull in as much air as you can, and then go ahead and exhale at whatever pace you want. And do that again and breathe in. Yeah, and then exhale again. And if you breathe in controlling through your nose, it's a little bit easier to pull in with that diaphragm. But while you're running, you'll have to learn to do it through your mouth, right? Like we breathe through our mouth because it's the largest way to get air into our oxygen into our lungs. And then we'll breathe out through our mouths as well. So really starting to work at that. And sometimes if I'm running around along and I'm getting a side stitch or something, obviously I'll stop, I'll take some deeper breaths with my diaphragm, I'll get that going again, and I'll feel much more comfortable. So first, it's that diaphragmatic breathing, really using the belly is the way to pull air in. And then that rhythm part, I think this is something that you just have to play with a little bit. But I think the advice in there is sort of equal rhythms. Maybe it's 3 and 3, and that's 3 steps, 3 counts. I do it with my steps because obviously if you're running along, Your steps are your biggest thing to count, right? And so 3 and 3, 3 steps breathing in and 3 steps breathing out. I find almost all the time I prefer one more step breathing in and one fewer steps breathing out. So it might be, just, but you got to get it all out, right? If you don't, you'll hyperventilate. You can't, you keep just breathing in more and more and not getting everything out. So sometimes it helps to have on that out breath a little bit more force and just to really get it out. The faster you run, the more that'll become easier, right? So if you're running a little slower right now, it might be even breaths in and out. But as you pick that up, you'll find it's a little easier to expel that air faster and to get it all the way out. And that rhythm is something that's going to become somewhat personal to you and personal to each of those spaces. But play with that over the next couple of runs, right? Just play with the idea of how do I get this comfort level of breathing in through my belly, getting up as much oxygen as I can, because really it's that balance of getting oxygen in, transferring it through the blood, and getting carbon dioxide out fast as well, right? And that's what we're doing while we're breathing. And then play with those rhythms. See which one fits best for you. And once you get that breathing kind of timed in or to how fast you're running, you can almost tell yourself how fast you're running based on how fast you're breathing, right? You may not need all those fancy tools that we all like to look at sometimes, the GPS watch or the timer, and you can just go out and actually enjoy running. All right, so that's the breathing part. A couple of other questions came in this week, and I really want to address some of them. So one of them is, what do I do with these things, right? These arms when I'm running. And you'll hear different people have different opinions about this. I would recommend you follow my opinion, but no, I'm just kidding. There's a really, I'm going to try to set this back a little. And as I stand up, I like to just say when you're running, you want that forearm to be parallel to the ground, right? So your hands to be loose. We call your fingers to not be clenched or running or too tight. So it's just loose and easy. We like to say like hold a potato chip between your fingers. So it's very loose. And it's just kind of a movement back and forth, right? Parallel to the ground. And the movement, oftentimes people think the movement is forward, but this is the way I'm running because they'll see sprinters running and they're coming so far forward with their hands. But really the movement is backwards, and the swing forward is just a natural return from the backward movement, and it's counterbalanced, right? So it just becomes a nice even swing of backward movement, forward balance, backward movement. Does that all make sense? So parallel to the ground. Some people will say, you're supposed to run with them lower. That is actually a lot of energy to continue to hold up this little weight. I'd almost say if you wanted to, having them a little higher is probably a little better than a little lower. You'll find most endurance runners kind of keep them higher and almost to the chest. And if you're not looking at just from the side, you could pump them straight forward, but there is a little just kind of slightly across the body as you're running, kind of towards the center line, not twisting. That's a bunch of wasted effort and you have to unbalance that. So just nice, natural. We call this hips to nips. Hopefully nobody's offended by that. But where that hand's traveling from your hip to your nip, right? And so while you're holding the chip. So that's the idea, nice and smooth and fluid. And again, I told you this before in the past. And I always like to use this as like my own cue towards the end of a longer run. So maybe it's a 5K. For you guys, maybe it's a 10K, but that last third of the run, I like to just remember to swing my arms faster. By the time I'm tired everywhere else, if I swing my arms faster, my legs have to travel faster. They have to keep up with my arms. They're connected, right? Well, kind of connected through the body, but their motions are connected in running. And so if I just swing my arms a little faster, I'm going to move a little faster. And that's an easier thing when everything else feels really tired and I want to keep going faster. That's an easy way for me to remember that. And using that cadence of the arms to move forward a little faster. So that's arm swing. We didn't talk about that in the original form, and so it was a good question that came across. Another one that I've got a few questions on this week. We're in week 6, right? So we're just starting week 6. We're over the hump. We're on the way to the 5K, and things are getting longer, right? So we're starting to get up into 6-minute intervals for those who are new to running. We're at a 15-minute interval for those who want to run the whole way. For those of you who are really new to running or maybe coming back to it from a long time off, it is okay to stop at 4. In other words, it's okay to do 4-minute intervals. Try to shorten that rest interval down and down. And all I'd ask you to do is do one more interval that's on the program. And I'll describe that again today. But it's okay to modify this such that you're achieving your goals, right? You're still running more than you've ever run before. If you had an extra interval of 4 minutes and 4 minutes is your stressful point right now where I just don't want to go above that, it's absolutely fine to just add an extra 4-minute interval for the total time that you would be running if you were doing the longer intervals, right? There's no pride really to being able to run an entire 5K and not doing run walk intervals. But the idea is to recover faster during those recovery intervals. So maybe you're going to shorten that from the 2 minutes down to 90 seconds or even 1 minute. If you have a timer or something, just set it the way you want to run. And then do that extra 1 or 2 intervals at the end. So you're still challenging yourself. You're still going farther. You're meeting the overall guideline of how many minutes you're going to work out tonight. And the only thing we're removing is that extra couple of minutes in each of the intervals. Does that make sense to you guys? That would not be considered a failure at any point. What would be is like, well, I'm not going to consider anything a failure, but what would be is maybe if you're setting yourself up to have like too much stress over this, right? Stress when you're running is just going to create more challenge to you and make it even worse than setting yourself up in a way you know you're going to be successful. And we're all going to be excited when we finish that 5K, whether we've done 4 and 1s, 4 and 2s, whether we walked an extra quarter mile somewhere in there because we just had a bad moment, but we still overcame that and we crossed that finish line, right? So all of these are opportunities for us to learn our limits, maybe to stretch those limits. And you can change these particular metrics as long as you're continuing, like each of the specifics, as long as you're continuing to challenge yourself on the overall time. Then you'll be ready for that run at the end anyway. Does that make sense? I know each of you could write me if you want, and I'd write you a specific little blurb. And again, I really enjoyed getting the emails I did get this week. So please don't hesitate to email if there's any questions. Use the Facebook page as well. I think I'm commenting on most everything that I can. At least giving thumbs up when it's good stuff. So yeah, let's keep communicating in those ways, and know that the specifics, like the little extra bit that we're doing now, because it's going to build up to, I think that it builds up to 7 minutes running. And if that just seems uncomfortable or I can't reach that this time around, stop at 4. Let's just add extra intervals at the end. I think you've all pretty much accomplished that 4 at this point or close. Maybe you're still at 3 getting to 4, and that's perfectly fine too. Just keep striving to get to that 4. If we could all finish this 8 weeks at 4 and 1, I'm confident that that in the next set, whether it's another Ignite that you're going to go or it's Winter Warriors or whatever else, you're going to be able to continue to build on this and get stronger and be confident in your running. The last thing I'd want is one number, any number that's on this plan, to be between you feeling successful and becoming a runner. And yeah, I just wouldn't want any of these numbers to stand in the way of that. So or a consistent walker. If you're moving consistently for the amount of time on these plans, that's awesome. And I'm confident we're going to be able to get you through that 5K. So hopefully everybody's good about that. So what are the workouts then today? The workouts tonight, if you haven't already done them, is run 6, walk 2 times 4. So if you think about that, I'm just going to do the math real quickly. If I can do it in my head, that's basically 8 minutes times 4. So that's 32 total minutes of running, right? Or of working out, along with what happens when we start up. Everybody say it out loud. We're going to warm up. And what happened? Yep, 4 minutes of warm up. And what happens at the end? We're going to cool down and stretch, right? So another 4 minutes. So, but if you're getting that 32 minutes of that activity in, that's great. So 6 minutes running, 2 minutes walking by 4. What would that look like? Well, it might look like 4 minutes running, 2 minutes walking by 5, right? That's going to give us 30. That's darn close. Or maybe it's 5 minutes running, 1 minute walking by 5. That's going to give us 32, or 4 2 by 6. Whatever it is, like build it so that it's comfortable for you, and you're getting that run interval with a break that gives you a recovery, right? And you're out there for that 32 minutes. That would be awesome. All right, for those of you who are going to run the whole way, this is 15 minutes on, 1 minute break times 2. And that's the longest challenge we've done yet. That doesn't mean you haven't done it yourself, but that's the longest challenge in here. So let's accomplish that pretty soon. We're going to start running consistently, and we're going to drop those rest intervals. So let's get out there and get that done. And if you're a speedster on the call, you're still on this call, you've been running a long time, you want to go a little faster, I'd do that 6 by 2 times 4 and just run that 6 minutes, at that hard, consistently hard pace. I think I have a couple of chats coming in. So there's a comment about the 6 minutes was super hard. Remember to bring your water too. That's in this comment. Great suggestion for everybody else. Make sure you always have some level of water on you. So again, set yourself up for success, right? You're going out and running. For some of you, when you started this all, you might have been like, there's no way I'm going to be a runner. So you're going out and running. Set yourself up with a plan that's going to help you be successful, feel strong and confident at the end. Continue to challenge yourself. That's the only other thing I'd say. And that's the beautiful thing about this plan is it's continuous slight challenge. If the run intervals are just getting too long, feel free there. Somebody's asking what's going to happen with Winter Warriors, or Chris and Jan are. I don't really know yet, but something fun. If some of you on the call maybe don't know even what Winter Warriors is, Winter Warriors is a program we've done 7 years now. Kicked it off with the pancake run. We obviously won't have a pancake run, but we're going to give you guys some delicious pancake recipes so that you can have your own pancake run on that day. That's our plan so far. Kicked it off with the pancake run. It runs for 10 weeks through the winter. The whole idea is keeping people active at a time when we normally go inside. And it's points based, so the more points you earn, the better gear you get at the end of the year. All of that's still going to happen, but it's going to happen in a way in which you guys are holding yourself accountable. We're not going to necessarily get together in big groups, but we're going to work towards having smaller group opportunities for people to run together and maybe still get some extra points out there. And there'll be some new challenges this year because it can't all be about the weather. It used to be if it was cold or if it was snowy, you get extra points. It's just not going to work as easily this time. So there'll be other challenges out there for you guys. So we're still dreaming what that's going to look like. And because we're in this, well, I think everybody knows we're in a bit of a time where there's not a lot of consistency, right? We're not sure what next week's going to bring or next month's going to bring. So we're trying to leave it pretty flexible as we get there. But we will start on the day after Thanksgiving. That'll be the beginning of Winter Warriors. I think we'll run another Ignite right after this. And hopefully some of you who maybe this is your first time and you want to just keep this challenge going, you'll join this again. But we'll run another Ignite through the winter, and it'll coincide with Winter Warriors. So you won't have to make a choice there. Anyways, I've been so encouraged by all of you guys who continue to show up, and I know there's others that are out there doing it, that I forgot how much fun this was. So I'm going to keep coaching you guys. If you want me as a coach, I'm going to keep doing it. So those are the workouts right now for today, and appreciate you guys showing up, and let's go out there and get it done. I'm going to go get my run done, and then my brother's in town from out of town, so I'm going to enjoy some time with him. But you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on Saturday. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Wade. Bye.
Yep.